Hey everyone, welcome back to Unorthodox Cricket. Now, two massive games in the Cricket World Cup last night. Firstly between India and Sri Lanka, and then that was followed up by an absolute epic between Australia and South Africa. Now, these games were always going to influence the semi-final positions. However, the game between Australia and South Africa probably was the one people weren't predicting, so that's really changed up the final four positions and the semi-finals next week. So what we're going to do today, guys, is we're going to take a quick recap of those two games. Then we're going to look at the semi-finals for next week, maybe take a light prediction, but what I'll do is I'll make a preview video of each game next week. So first up, the game between India and Sri Lanka. As I sort of said yesterday, a really good chance for India just to get some players in form moving into the semi-finals, and that's exactly what happened. So Sri Lanka batted first and saw 264 for 7, with Angelo Matthews top scoring with 113. Now, there wasn't a great deal of support for Angelo Matthews at the other end, but 264 was always going to be reasonably competitive. Pick of the bowlers, as always, Jasprit Bumrah just continues to impress. He is going to be a guy in the semis and the finals who's just going to be an absolute nightmare for opening and tail end batsmen. Just that ability to angle the ball across, get a bit of movement, and then at the death to spare in those Yorkers. Best bowler in the world, hands down for me at the moment. And really good to see Ravi Jadeja get a run. Bowled fantastically, really tight, 1 for 40. And I think he'll really be putting his hand up for a semi-final position. So 264 I thought might be reasonably competitive, but with that Indian top order, never really stood a chance. Chased down too easily, 265 for 3. KL Rahul finding some form, 111, so that goes with his 70 odd the other day. So he's really came back. He struggled early on, particularly after Shikhar Dhawan was injured and he was brought into the side. He really struggled, but he's got his form back on track, and that's really positive for India moving into the semis. And then the hitman, Rohit Sharma, his 5th 100 of the tournament. Now, that is just incredible numbers. 9 games, 500s. You can't ask for more out of any player, and he is another one that New Zealand in the semi-finals are going to have to get rid of early, or they're in big trouble. Now, the second game of the night was between South Africa and Australia, and this was the last game that could influence the positions of the semi-finals. So South Africa batted first and scored 325 for 6 at the end of their 50 overs. Faf du Plessis finding some real late form in the tournament, scoring another 100. So real good for him, and that was backed up by Rassie van der Dussen. I think I've said that right, maybe not. But he scored a 95, caught on the boundary on the last ball, trying to bring up that ton, but unfortunately he held out. And Quinton de Kock, another 50 at the top. He's really had a hit and miss tournament. He's had a few starts, and typically in ODI cricket he's had such a great conversion rate from 50s to 100s, but that sort of let him down just a little bit this tournament. Pick of the Australian bowlers was Nathan Lyon, who took 2 for 53, and that was closely followed by Mitchell Starc with 2 for 59. Yet again, two bowlers that are going to be very hard to get away come semi-finals time. Nathan Lyon, I think you've just got to be aggressive, attack him, and just hope there's no turn in the track. But I think being aggressive is your best approach to a guy like him. Now, 325 is always going to be a hard task, but when you've got guys in your team like Finch and Warner who have just dominated this whole World Cup, you wouldn't bet against Australia in this case. Now, Warner did back it up as always, another 100, 122. Phenomenal tournament he's had yet again. Different approach from him. He has been slightly low on the strike rate side for him, but it's converting to runs, so you wouldn't argue with that. And then Alex Carey, he's had a really good tournament, really impressed me. He scored 85 and fell just as Australia were making that last push. But in the end, they were 315 all out, so a great victory for South Africa. This also means that instead of Australia playing New Zealand in the semi-finals, it's going to be an India-New Zealand and Australia-England semi-final. Now, the best of the South African bowlers was Rabada, who took 3 for 56, and then Pretorius, who took 2 for 27. So, bit of late form for them in the tournament. South Africa, they're going to be disappointed with their World Cup. However, I think we all know that there are players there and they're going to rebuild and be competitive once again. Now, both of last night's games have influenced the semi-final position, so we've finally got the semi-finalists. So, the first game on Tuesday is New Zealand versus India. Absolutely massive. I'm super excited for that. Really hopeful New Zealand can turn things around and upset India. And then moving on, it's Australia versus England. Now this is another huge one. The host versus the very informed Australia. Personally, I don't know who I want to win that game. I'd rather see England go through to the final, but I'd also love to see New Zealand beat Australia in the final as a bit of revenge for the 2015 World Cup. But we'll just see how that plays out. Now, obviously for New Zealand, their top order is huge. They need their openers to fire, and that's going to be hard against the likes of Boomer and Shami at the top. For India, their middle order has really struggled, so that's a potential weakness for New Zealand to expose. Australia, as we've seen, all their runs have come up top, so yet again, their middle order is somewhere to try and expose for the English. And with England, they haven't shown a lot of weakness, but the Australians will be hoping that the pitch has a bit of movement in there, because we have seen that the English batsmen have failed to adapt. So what I'll do from here, guys, is I think I'll make some preview videos for both the New Zealand-India game and the Australia-England game, just breaking down some keys to success for both teams. And then we'll move into the finals. But I'm super excited. It's been a great tournament so far. There's been some good teams left behind. But moving forward, these are probably 4 of the strongest teams. I'd say New Zealand are a bit lucky to be there. But at the same time, Pakistan didn't put their foot forward to try and qualify. And the other teams have just been too inconsistent over the course of the whole tournament. So that's all for today, guys. Let me know your feedback. Let me know who you think might win these semi-finals. But thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys again tomorrow.